Please welcome Congresswoman Chrissy Houlahan, Democrat from Pennsylvania, Air Force veteran, member of the House Armed Services Committee, and co-founder and co-chair of the Servicewomen and Women Veterans Congressional Caucus.
Well, thank you very much for being here with us today. We've had a great panel so far.
Yes, clearly.
Yeah, learning a lot.
You served in the U.S. Air Force, active duty, and in the reserves. How did your service shape your perspective on veteran care and the transition and what's happening in the transition landscape, if you will, today?
Sure, and kind of backing all the way up, I was born at Pax River Naval Air Station.
Oh, right here in Maryland.
Yeah, and I come from a military family, of course, and my dad and my grandfather served together in the same squadron, and my dad met my mom through the squadron.
Wow, where was that?
In Pax River.
Oh.
And so I was born into this. And so it's not just my own personal service, but the service that I had as a kid, you know, growing up in a military family where my dad and my grandfather sometimes were stationed in the same place, or we were trailing them because they were P-3 pilots. And so my experience here in Congress now is really informed by the decades of experience I have as a military kid, but also the experience I have as an active duty member myself and a veteran myself. And my experience is also clearly informed by the fact that I'm a woman, and that's sometimes different.
How so?
Well, you know, it's 20% of the service are women at this point in time, and we anticipate that it can be as high as 30% in the next decade. But we still are very much, obviously, in the minority, and our experience as active duty people and transitioning into our veteran status is, by definition, going to be a little bit different. And so when I'm in Congress, either on the Military Personnel Committee or on other committees, I'm trying to always have the lens of both the family member and also the active duty service member and the veterans transition. And you ask some questions about, do you feel like veterans know who to ask or know who to contact? I think one of the biggest things we do wrong is there's not a very seamless transition between being active duty, separating, and being a veteran. We don't do a very good job of kind of doing a really soft and warm handoff there. We don't do a really good job, particularly in places, for women as an example. We don't do a very good job for people who are going to be not necessarily in proximity to a VA. And so those are the kinds of holes and gaps that we need to be addressing.
It just astonishes me that, I mean, in the history of the country, and as long as we've had to get this right, that those gaps still exist. So what can Congress do about it?
Well, and this is one of the things that's frustrated me. I'm a newbie, relatively speaking, to Congress. I've been in Congress now for 7 years. I never ran for anything. I was not engaged in politics in this way before running for office, and so I've learned a lot. What I've learned is that just by nature of the organization of Congress itself being the Veterans Affairs Committee and the Armed Services Committee, and never the twain shall meet, you know, there's kind of turf wars and competitions that go on between those two, and they can't seem to find a way to get along with each other. And that creates systems that don't talk to each other, at least from a congressional perspective. And similarly, and I'm going to go ahead and say it, one of the things that makes me frustrated that I've learned is sometimes we put together programs that are designed to help active duty members or veterans, but we design them so that they don't cost too much money, or they don't cost money at all. And the way that we do that is to not tell people they exist, or to not make it automatic that you are, when you transition as a...
So why go through the exercise?
That's my point. You know, it's enormously frustrating. We do this pretty consistently, where we're going to create a program to make sure that people who've been exposed to toxins, you know, and may have carcinogenic tendencies or tendencies towards different kinds of cancers, we make it impossible for them to prove that they're worthy or deserving of that care. Right now, as an example, I traveled to Mongolia recently on the Intelligence Committee, and Mongolia has a lot going on there, but one thing they have is an enormous pollution problem.
Really?
So, yes, like the valleys there of their major cities basically are a bowl, you know, and it's very, very cold there, and everything just settles down. And so everybody we send there, whether in the intelligence community or the military community, is going to be exposed to that, you know, environment. They're going to be breathing that environment. And so why wouldn't we ask those people to be tested before they leave, tested after they come back, to see what the actual cause, whether there is an actual cause to their exposure to in this case, pollution or other elements. And we just don't do that because it costs money. And I think that's a problem because we absolutely value our men and women in uniform, but we have to put the money behind it, and it has to be holistic and not sort of opportunistic. We tout a lot of programs that we don't actually tell anybody about.
I can't. It's amazing to even hear you say that. And so aside from the health impacts, and I mean, I covered the burn pit legislation and the debate around that over the course of the last several years and the outcomes there, and legislative outcomes there anyway. But in terms of simply the handoff that you're talking about, the transition, where are the problems there and what should be done about it?
We're making some progress on this. I don't want to be a complete Eeyore about this, but it's taking...
Is that a Winnie the Pooh reference
yes,
there?
Yes. I'm a big children's literature fan.
Well, I had 3 kids that were raised on Tigger and
exactly.
And Eeyore,
well, I'm
yeah.
the Eeyore to maybe your Tigger.
Not usually.
That's good to know. That's good to know. But yeah, I think that as an example, I'm an engineer, and what I did in the military and then in my subsequent life was a lot of systems implementations and a lot of problems that we have in the transition between active duty and veterans is systemic, literally, whether we're transferring medical records from one area to the other or making it kind of easy for somebody to be able to access veteran care. We don't make that easy, and I think we're getting better at it. I think we're creating systems that speak with each other more and more, but that's taken way longer than it ought to. The civilian economy already has this kind of stuff figured out. My brother is a Army vet, and he lives in Iowa, not close to a veterans hospital. And when he and I were speaking about his needs, we went on the website to try to access, how he could find care, and it was impenetrable, and he and I are not dumb. Between us, we have several degrees and graduate degrees, and we can't figure out how to make sure that where his care comes from and where he should be going. That is not okay.
Yeah. My brother is a nurse, a civilian, but
My brother too.
Yeah, he worked at Schofield Barracks in Honolulu, near Honolulu and on Oahu, with traumatic brain injury and PTSD patients, and he described a lot of the frustrations that you're describing or you're outlining. When it comes to access to care as well, that were expressed by many of those patients too.
Well, think about it. You're talking about people with brain injuries, you're talking about people who have suicidal ideations, and you're asking them to do impossible tasks online to prove that they need help when time is of the essence, and they don't have the time or the capacity in some cases to be able to be self-advocates.
No. Are there enough veterans in Congress?
No. I think right now there's about 20% of us who are veterans, and I think the peak was something like 70% was the peak. I do think it's important to have those. I think you had General Bergman here earlier in the morning.
Yes, we did.
He and I work together a lot, and we don't see eye to eye ideologically on many things, but we find a lot of common ground to work on that has to do with personnel issues, as an example, specifically. I do think that the disposition of a vet is better than the average bear in Congress, in terms of being more willing to try to give people the benefit of the doubt and to know that you're mission driven and that we're all here because we're all patriots. And so I do think that helps. I will say that in the history of Congress, there has been fewer than a dozen women veterans in Congress, and I do think that makes a huge difference too. One of the reasons why I decided personally to stay on the Armed Services Committee and I was on Foreign Affairs and I'm also on Intelligence is that I think that it's important to stick and stay in these conversations. Yeah. If you know a little bit about Congress, people are constantly scrambling for better committees.
A committees.
Yeah, and I think this is an A committee. I think that this is a committee that's deserving of really important thoughts and talents and not sort of like a way station to somewhere else. Yeah. So I believe we need more veterans.
I know that you're working with a veteran across the aisle, another female veteran, Jen Kiggins from down Tidewater Way in Virginia. Your district is in southeastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm just outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah. On helping or legislation that would help veterans transition more readily into civilian life. Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yes, we work a lot together on a lot of things. actually, her area has a lot of need for steel, and in my area, if you may know, Pennsylvania has a lot of steel.
Yeah.
So we work on those kinds of things.
They
But
named a football team after the steel industry.
Something there.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that particular team. Yeah,
Right. Well,
yeah,
I would guess
yeah.
not from your side of the state.
Not from my side of the
Yeah.
state, but the thing I think you're referring to is a piece of legislation that helps veterans as they transition from active duty into the energy sector.
Veterans Energy Transition Act.
Into the energy sector.
Yeah.
Again, this is one of those things we could do better. The jobs of the future, the economy of the future and of today increasingly is in that sector. And we have a lot of good programs that help people identify jobs that are in maybe older or less up and coming sectors. And so Jen and I are working together to try to make sure that people have access to the training and transition to be able to move into that sector. I will say that a lot of veterans, they struggle with just even basically trying to articulate what their skills are and how they transfer over to a civilian economy. We speak in a different language in the military, and we write performance reviews and our resume in different ways than the civilian economy does, and that's a hard transition too.
Yeah, and you'll make sure that bill is funded when it passes, right?
Well, that's the pay for is the drama.
That's always the thing.
You put the language in that no new money will be used to pay on this. I'm working on also bipartisanly with Representative Stephanie Bice on paid leave. Stephanie Bice is from Oklahoma. And we are struggling to try to find the pay for. We're one of 7 nations now in the world that don't have a paid leave program. And interestingly enough, we were collectively going after military golf courses as our pay for. And that didn't go over very well.
I would imagine.
Well, but really, I mean, do we really need to be doing that when we could instead be spending that money on giving paid leave to the nation?
You tell me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I remember.
Apparently, it's a sacred cow.
Yeah. What comes to mind, I covered the White House in the first Obama term, and President Obama went to Andrews quite frequently to use that golf course, I think for security reasons, but maybe he had a reason. I don't know. I'm almost afraid to even touch that third rail, military golf courses.
I touched it.
Okay, I want to get your closing thoughts. I want you to tell our audience, and incidentally, this streams on the Hills channel on Roku, on Samsung, on various other platforms. We call it Fast TV. It's our new biggest thing here at NewsNation and Nexstar. This is incidentally our 3rd annual Veterans Conference, and I did Jen Kiggins sat in the seat 2 years ago where you're sitting now, and I did interview her as well. But what are your closing thoughts? What is the most important issue that needs to be addressed when it comes to generally easing the transition from military life when someone takes off the uniform into civilian life, and B, some of the issues that were discussed in terms of the mental health challenges that veterans face?
Well, I think that you've nailed some of it. I think that health care writ large is an important, large issue that needs to be addressed better. I do very much worry transparently about what we're doing to undermine our VAs right now. We've let 30,000 people go in the last year. My community has a VA in Coatesville, and interestingly enough, in the PACT Act, there was a very small piece inside of it that said that if you were I'm making sure I get
That was
this
the
right.
burn pit legislation.
Yes,
yeah.
But inside that was a really cool opportunity to do public-private partnerships, so to speak, actually with nonprofit hospitals with VAs, and Penn Medicine, which you can probably imagine is a pretty world-renowned medical facility in Philadelphia and across Pennsylvania, wanted to partner with the VA because of this language in the burn pit bill, in the PACT Act bill. Effectively, the language allows nonprofit educational institutions such as Penn to be able to partner lease property to the VA from the hospital to be able to expand coverage and care. This is a rural area. My hospital, my VA is in a rural area. This is an opportunity to have a world-renowned hospital come to my area and help the VA, and that's been quashed because of all of the upheaval in the administration, because we've literally got no one who's willing to call us back any longer. And we can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot on this kind of stuff. We have to take care of our veterans, and we cannot be partisan about this. And it's obnoxious at this point. As a member of Congress, I now have to get permission from the VA to visit a VA at the highest level. That's not okay. And so I think we need to focus on the care and health of our veterans. Mental health is clearly one of those things. Health care that's unique to women is also something that's on attack right now too. And so that's one thing, but also, of course, making sure that we feed our veterans. Many of them are on food stamps right now. Those issues are big too, and that they have opportunities for employment. Maslow's needs, basically. Veterans need the same thing that regular folks
that's
need.
something I meant to talk about with the last panel, and we didn't get to it, is the fact that there are a significant number of veterans who use food stamps to one degree or another.
It's actually alarming, and also, frankly, active duty
Active
as well.
duty as well,
I think it's something like, it estimates between 13 and 25% of our active duty members. And Representative Don Bacon, and I worked really, really hard on a quality of life panel and amendments, 31 of them, to help quality of life of active duty members. Those kinds of things, could be transferred over to the veteran population. And you've actually given me a good idea. Maybe what I'll do is try to take what we did in the quality of life panel and transfer it over to the veterans.
All right. Well, don't tell anybody the journalist gave you an idea, but...
Well, I appreciate it. Actually, take this home with me.
Sign me up as a co-sponsor. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Congresswoman. Appreciate it.